What's going on, everyone? It has been a very long time since I've done a video like this. It has to have been since like set 2, where I talked about some of the polls, some of the prices of cards and things like that. But we're going to be going through some of the best polls from Secrets of Power. I know we've already gotten through our pre-releases and such, but a lot of people are ordering product right now. And by the way, I have a TCG player link in the description down below if you guys want to use it, if you are picking up product yourself. But when you open packs, just a little, I guess you could say, fun little guide for when you open packs on kind of what are some things to maybe be excited about. Of course, if you have some own personal things that you're looking for, great. That's what really makes it exciting. Gonna go through some of the prices and kind of where I think they may end up. Obviously, they are all inflated at the current moment because the set hasn't even been released as of recording this video. It's still just before that date, but we're getting very close when I'm recording this. And so I'm sure all the prices across the board are pretty much going to drop with the exception of maybe a couple of cards. And since the game is very, very heavily skewed towards Premier, it's really if the cards are going to be competitive, then the prices are going to be much higher. Only a few exceptions here and there for that. With all of that, a big thank you to my patrons over on Patreon, guys. They made it possible. More specifically, one of them made it possible for me to open up my whole Carbonite booster, which you all saw, which we opened an incredible option there. So it's been a lot of fun because I've been really diving into a lot of the cards for this set. And let's dive into our first one. So for our first one, we've got Obi-Wan Kenobi. Now, this one's kind of an interesting one because I am really not as high on this card in terms of competitive viability that a lot of other people are truly. But a 4-cost ground unit in Cunning Heroism is a 4/5. When he deals combat damage to a base, you discard a card from the defending player's deck. And for this phase, you may play that card from their discard pile, ignoring its aspect penalties. Now, as of recording this, this is the most expensive legendary in the game for set 6. And that's pretty crazy. It's sitting at $28 right now. This one, I think in terms of its competitive viability, I think it's going to drop significantly. I think there are a couple of decks that can utilize, and of course, just potentially drawing a card from your opponent's deck can be decent, but it's still just a 4-resource 4/5 that has an okay ability that might get you a little bit of value depending on the matchups. It's a lot better in like a deck like Sabe because you can, attack with Obi-Wan, get the Sabe trigger, and then get the Obi-Wan trigger, allowing you to kind of filter and choose the card that you actually want to be playing with Obi-Wan. But remember, usually you build a deck around the cards that you want to be playing in that deck. Now, if you obviously grab like an Overwhelming Barrage off the topic, it's going to be amazing. I think that the price really comes from Obi-Wan in Twin Suns, which again, I said it's mostly based off Premier, but I think a lot of people really hate or really love taking opponents' cards. And so that's where I think some of the price is going to come from. I think this will sit around maybe $8 or $9 for the legendary price after a couple of weeks, maybe even lower, but it really depends on kind of how excited people are about the ability on Obi-Wan here. The next one up is another legendary. It's Nemik's Manifesto. Now, this one's kind of interesting because it's so cheap. 1-cost upgrade in Aggression Heroism. Attached to a non-vehicle unit. Attached unit gains the Rebel trait. And when defeated, deal 1 damage to each enemy base for each other friendly unit and Rebel unit. And +1/+1. So giving the Rebel trait doesn't really matter if you're playing an all Rebel deck. But a 1-cost upgrade giving you +1/+1 is already like maybe playable depending on the deck. But then the potential to deal a little bit of damage to your opponent, obviously the people are excited about this in the Rebel deck. Anytime you have a card that really solidifies itself into a archetype, you already are going to be excited for it, or at least that group of people will be excited for it. I may even overshot the Obi-Wan price, by the way. Maybe it's going to sit around $6 or $7, maybe even a little bit less, but I think Nemik's Manifesto is way overpriced right now. It is sitting at $23 as of recording, and well, I think this is one that has a little bit of potential, but I definitely don't think upgrades in general are like incredibly powerful in of themselves. I think this one's going to definitely drop down to maybe about $5. The legendaries usually do have a base price of already a few dollars. So maybe it's going to get up to like that 6 or 7 around the kind of the price of Obi-Wan. I think this one actually does have a little bit more competitive viability than Obi-Wan, especially if you drop it on like a Sabine or a Cassian or something of that note, where you can just get that little bit of extra damage, and that would be exciting. Heck, if you drop it on a Cassian and then you've got the initiative, that could be pretty good because your opponent's going to kill it. and then take the initiative. But then Cassian will die, and great, you get some extra damage in your base. So maybe that's the place for it. But yeah, probably around $6 or $7, not the 23 that we're seeing right now. The next one is my absolute favorite art of the set. And yes, I am 100% biased. And yes, the price on this is partially due to those people who also have the same bias that I do. And that is Darth Nihilus. 7 resource ground unit in villainy. He's a 6/6 with the when played and on attack of deal 3 damage to the unit with the least remaining HP. And if it's a non-vehicle unit, you give an experience token to this unit. So really, honestly, quite powerful ability. If you're able to ambush this guy out, it could be absolutely menacing, especially making him basically an 8/8 when he attacks if you do hit multiple non-vehicle units. This guy is currently sitting at $19, which is kind of crazy because I don't think this is going to be like an amazingly playable card in a lot of decks. It is a legendary, which is already more important, and I think this is the key, it's a Legends card. So all the KOTOR fans out there like myself immediately see this card and immediately attaches a better inherent value to this because people want to be playing with Nihilus. It's just what it is. This also applies to Scion and Traya in terms of the legendary, Legends cards. But I think Nihilus is actually the more exciting out of all 3 of them, especially since if you are able to ambush this guy out, he actually can do some amazing work. And well, I think he's going to sit probably again around that similar price to Nemik's Manifesto, maybe a little bit less. Because I think it's a little bit less playable than that. So maybe about $5 is when we're gonna find out this legendary's price when it's been a couple of weeks, or maybe even a little bit longer. And for the next one, a little spoiler here, but probably the most competitive one on this list, at least in my opinion. We've got 5-cost ground unit in command heroism, Queen Amidala. 5/3 creates 2 spy tokens, and when it would be dealt damage, you may defeat another friendly unit that shares a trait, and if you do, you prevent that damage from Queen Amidala, or to Queen Amidala rather. This one is currently sitting at $16, actually less than Nihilus, but this is one that I think, depending on how the meta shapes up, could be an absolute game changer. If we're going to see a little bit more of a controlling meta, then Queen Amidala is an absolute beast. It is an absolute beast. A more mid-rangey meta, this one also does some work there. Even in a more aggressive meta, if it's not like super aggressive and you're at least able to get the attacks in with Queen Amidala, that's a 5 resource, 9 power unit. I mean, that is incredible, right? So this one, I think $16 is actually not too far off of what I would expect her to be. I'm going to say, maybe a hot take, maybe around $11 to $12, maybe a little bit higher. I mean, if you were to compare this to some of the legendaries that we have, like Anakin, for example, which is way good, right? Way good. Definitely better than Queen Amidala, in my opinion. But Anakin's sitting at like $20. So I don't think 11 to 12, maybe $13 for Queen Amidala is a unreasonable thing to be expecting for another legendary that I think is going to be competitively viable in the meta. And for the next one, we've got the king of the Timmy cards out there. We've got Vuutun Palaa, the droid control ship, 9-drop space unit in command. It's a 7/7, and he costs 1 less for each friendly droid unit. And each friendly droid unit now turns into a resource if you would like. This guy is, like I said, the peak Timmy card. This is a price defining card from all the more casual players. Definitely more of a Twin Suns look. This is not a competitively viable card in general. Trying to set this guy up, I've tried, and getting value out of all your droids and trying to transition that into ramping you into further, more powerful units is definitely a situation that you're going to be finding in Twin Suns more often than your premier gameplay. It's currently sitting at $11, which I think is actually probably going to be a little bit higher than some of the other ones that we already mentioned in the legendary category, just because people think that this card's cool. There are certainly some cards in previous sets that have maintained a higher price point just because people think it's cool, outside of just their competitive viability, even though that is a major component. I think Vuutun Palaa is going to sit still around that $6 range just because people want to pick this guy up and, well, run in, deploy their droids, and do some crazy things. Maybe in Twin Suns, or maybe just at your store showdowns. Alrighty, with the next one. Ooh, boy. I'm loving my KOTOR cards, guys. And we've got another one, Darth Traya. This one, 3-cost ground unit in Cunning, Villainy 2/5. On attack, be ready. A non-unit leader. Definitely read that wrong when the first time I saw this card. But we've got a legendary, no legendary, in the Legends area with the KOTOR 2 kind of theme going on here. This one's sitting at $11 right now, but I think this one's also going to kind of maintain its price point for the uniqueness of it. I wouldn't be surprised if this one also has some staying power in terms of price viability going forward. There are definitely some legendaries in the past like that, like an Anakin, for example. Any card that's going to synergize with that even more makes Anakin better and more expensive. But Darth Traya, I mean, the more leaders that we're getting, the more that we can utilize this ability is going to be more exciting. And she's also responsible for really the only reasonable infinite combo in the game at the current moment. And she's also a KOTOR 2 card. I think she's going to be sitting around, again, that $7 range as a legendary. It is a pretty exciting one to be opening. Next we've got to talk about is Karis Nemik. I mean, if anyone has been talking about new aggro cards, Karis Nemik has been at the top of the list for basically every single person. If you've tested with this guy, he is a powerhouse. 2-cost ground unit in aggression heroism, a 3/2 with hidden, and when defeated may disclose aggression heroism to create a spy token and ready it. Absolutely amazing card for those more aggressive decks. Our first rare of the list, actually, which is kind of surprising because I'm sure there's going to be some uncommons that are like a couple dollars here and there, but obviously we're looking for the best pulls, and I think this is actually one that is going to reach that best pull echelon. At the current moment, he's $6, but again, the rares start at a lower base point. I think he's actually going to maintain that price point, maybe even go a little bit higher to the $7, $8 range. We've seen some rares like K2SO, especially in the earlier sets, well, maintain their price point. I mean, K2SO was like a card for like $12 for a long time because it fit in so many different aggro aggression heroism shells. And guess what? Karis is going to be the same card. Sabine, Quinlan, Padme, all those cards are going to want Karis Nemik if you're going to be playing those decks. And well, he is a rare. He is a little bit more rare. Got him. But also, he's just extremely powerful. One of the most competitive cards on this list alongside Queen Amidala, and I think that people are going to really, really value that quite highly. Another card that's also a rare to follow up Karis Nemik, we've got Chancellor Palpatine, the 3-cost ground unit in command villainy 2/2. When played, if you control your leader unit, you create 2 spy tokens and give them Sentinel with plot. By far, one of the strongest plot cards in the set. You know, alongside cards like Cad Bane or Topple the Summit or Sudden Ferocity, we've got Chancellor Palpatine up here. And this is an amazing card. Definitely fits absolutely fantastically in certain decks that are looking to go a little bit wider. You could even play it out of aspect for Unity of Purpose shenanigans with like a Mon Mothma. But really, it's just so much value to be playing this and get 2 units and also give them Sentinel to protect potentially some other units on board. This guy is currently sitting at about $5.50. I think he's going to stick around that price point, maybe go a little bit lower to the about $4 to $5 range. This one is a rare, so again, their price points are a little bit lower. I don't think he's going to be nearly as competitively viable as Karis Nemik, but I do think he does something really interesting and really unique, and that's something that really does benefit the price point for Chancellor Palpatine. Next up, we've got a cunning villainy powerhouse in Grand Admiral Thrawn, 7-drop ground unit, 8/7. When played, an opponent may choose a non-leader unit they control, and if they do, it captures. If they don't, you get a readied up 8/7. And when he's defeated, a friendly unit captures the enemy non-leader unit in the same arena. This guy's just extremely disruptive. Comes in, either immediately captures something to remove something off your opponent's board, or you just get an immediately readied up 8/7. And remember, if they cannot choose a non-leader unit they control, you get an immediately readied up 8/7, which could be an absolute devastating game finisher. On top of that, even when you do get him killed immediately, you capture another unit. Just straight up captures. And guess what? You get to choose on the when played effect your opponent chooses. So maybe your opponent chooses their worst unit and then gets it Thrawn killed, but then you get to choose their best unit when he's defeated. So lots of dynamics going on here. This guy's currently sitting at around $7 for the legendary price point. I think he's also going to stick around that price point for the long run at about $7. This one's not a flashy legendary by any means, but I think it's actually going to generate a little bit of value for your decks. Another rare for our list, we've got 5-resource event Topple the Summit in aggression. Straightforward, deal 3 damage to each damaged unit with plot. I think this guy is going to be actually really interesting to see if it's going to be competitively viable. I think there's some decks that really can benefit from it. Decks like Boba Fett, decks that can, deal indirect damage or direct damage to your opponent's units. Even decks like maybe like Quinlan, where you're dealing some pings here and there. Maybe that can come in. Kira Red, if that's going to be a decision. I don't think this is going to be as popular as people already think it is. So it's sitting at about $5.50 as the price point. I think what people are going to find out, and as I found out, is that there are a lot fewer decks that are actually looking to take advantage of Topple the Summit than you would initially think of. And so Topple the Summit, I think it's going to be sitting around maybe $3 to $4 as a rare event, but still pretty solid. And lastly, we've got Dryden Vos, 4-cost ground unit in aggression villainy. It's a 2/5, and on attack, you may double this unit's power for this attack. If you do, it doesn't ready during the next regroup phase, rather. This guy really is, again, another Timmy card, very similar to Vuutun Palaa, where right now he is sitting at, I believe it was $7, around $7. And, you know, actually, I take that back. I'm looking right now. $10. This is where this guy's sitting at. I think that's definitely too high of a price point for Dryden Vos. I don't think he's nearly as competitively viable as some other people think. However, the 5 toughness can keep him alive. And you guys have seen what absurd things we can do with just a readied up Dryden, just doing a surprise strike, getting in for immediate 10 damage, or, you know, coming in and smacking for 28, which we did in a previous video. If you have some really, really amazing upgrades to slot on him, like if you're playing an aggression cunning deck and you sudden ferocity on a Dryden and then surprise strike, that is suddenly an attack for 16 damage. That is an insane attack. Okay, it can really scale out of control, and I think that is what's appealing to this guy. He does something that no other card can. That uniqueness aspect, as well as being a legendary, is going to keep his price pretty high, probably around the $6 to $7 range as well. And before you all say, as this was our last one, failed, what do you mean? There's like so many other cards. You're like, what about Darth Traya? That guy's probably like $5 right now. Yeah. There's a lot of legendaries out there that have some really good price points. Take, for example, Sinara San, the 7-drop cunning unit that's sitting at $10 right now. I think that's going to be dropping so far down comparatively to some of the other cards that I mentioned that it's really not too exciting to be opening. And also, I just don't think it's a very powerful card. A lot of the cards that I mentioned today, not only are cards that people have priced out pretty solidly, but also cards that are exciting that you can slot in your deck and actually might make an impact on the meta in some way or another. Let me know what you think in the comment section down below. Thanks for watching, everyone, and I'll see you all for the next one.